As a lover of watches, I have purchased a lot of watches and I've also sold a good amount of watches to go along with it. And through this process, I have definitely had some regrets. What's going on, everybody? My name is Teddy Baldassarre, and in this video, we are gonna be talking about some huge regrets that I have on either selling a watch or buying a watch. Just mistakes that I've made in the past, and hopefully through just kind of my storytelling of them, maybe it will help you in avoiding one for yourself. So guys, let's jump into it. All right, so before we get too far into this video, I want to first preface it by saying that these are my opinions. A lot of the watches that I mentioned here I know are very beloved in the community as a whole, so let's just jump into the first one. And the first one really isn't just one watch. It's more entire collection of mistakes that I made, and that was by buying a ton of fashion watches. So I definitely got caught up in the digital marketing of a lot of these brands like Baldassarre, Fifth Watches. I purchased a lot of these when I was first learning about watches, and of course I don't think they are the worst things in the world because I do think they look nice, but when you start learning more about horology, you realize that there really isn't much there. So that being said, I think it was definitely a regret of mine spending a lot of money on it because I had to liquidate them all when I realized that they weren't for me, and didn't really get much of my money back. That said, it did help me kind of figure out what I liked and what I didn't like, so there was a positive that came out of it. All right, next up is a watch that I don't think any of you guys know that I previously owned. I never featured it on the channel before. This was before I started making YouTube videos. And it's a watch that I enjoy. It's a watch that I love the look of, but it just didn't work for me, and that was the Glycine Combat Sub. So I own the GoldenEye version of this watch. I really liked the look of it, and as soon as I got it, I'm like, God, this is a great piece. I really enjoy it. I got it for a great price. But where the problems came in when I put it on my wrist and I realized, oh my gosh, this thing is way too big for me. So this is why I always preach, 42 millimeters, that doesn't really tell the whole story. You have to think about a lot of different dimensions of a watch, especially that lug to lug height. So from one distance of the lug on one side of the case to the other side of the case, that's going to give you a better understanding of how a watch is going to wear. And when you look at that actual measurement for the Glycine Combat Sub, you're looking at something over 50 millimeters. So I quickly determined after wearing it for a little while that it just looked kind of silly. It was overhanging the sides of my wrist, and it just wasn't for me. That said, great looking watch. I really wish I could have made it work for me. It just is what it is. So the next watch that I regret was the Squale 1521. And I'm sure I'm probably going to upset some people with this pick. Of course, this watch has become popular because of TGV. That's how I heard about it, or at least how I kind of got more involved with, wanting to own one, because I would just constantly see him mentioning it, saying how he loves it. And no offense to TGV, but I just think the watch, for the amount of hype, I don't think he even realized how much hype this watch would have, is not really for me. And when I think about the watches that I want to buy, I think about, for one, is it something that I could wear with a lot of different outfits? Is it something that has some horological significance? Does it bring something to the table? And is it also something that would really be suited well on my wrists? And for a guy with smaller wrists, this wasn't actually the worst diver in that regard. It had very compact lugs, it fit okay. But when I was just determining all those things, and just the uniqueness of the piece too, I don't like pieces that everybody can own. I like owning a watch that I think is a little bit more unique to me. And when I was factoring all that together, I realized the Squale was just not for me. That said, I know there's a lot of people out there that enjoy it, so I'll just leave it at that. If you love the Squale, there you go. So the next watch I'll regret buying, and I probably have to have like some viewer discretion is advised kind of warning come up before I mention this watch. I can already hear the pitchforks getting ready. But it is the SKX 009. And before you freak out, the reason why I regret this watch was not really because of anything other than the sizing. I am mad because I decided to go for that watch instead of the 013, the smaller case sizing. That would have been way better suited for me. I think I just made a mistake in terms of which SKX to go for. honestly, if I'm being completely frank, I think getting an SKX in my collection again wouldn't be the worst idea, because when I'm looking at my watches, I really don't have a cheap watch that I can bring in the water with me. And in reality, I don't like bringing any expensive watches into the water. I think there's just too much risk being associated with it. So that's just something I'm considering. And just to be completely honest, I think the SKX 009 just wasn't for me as much as I would say maybe the 013 was. All right, so the next watch that I regret buying is a watch that I certainly don't hate in any regard. I think it's a great watch. It was a watch that I bought because I didn't hold out longer for a watch I really loved. And the watch that I'm talking about is the Tissot Visodate. It's a watch that I think is great looking. I enjoyed it. Not only did I not hold out for the watch that I really wanted, I also went for the cheaper option of the two. Even though I liked the white dial version more, I went with the black dial version. But the watch that I really wanted was a Nomos Orion. And instead of spending the money on the Nomos Orion, or at least saving up a little bit longer, I went and got the Tissot Visodate. It's a watch that I liked, but I never really loved. And that was the problem with this watch always. And on top of it, when I sold the watch, I did come out pretty far in the red on it. I think it's partially my bad when I was selling it on eBay. I kind of had the starting auction price a little bit too low than I probably should have. So I parted with it for pretty cheap. But all things considered, you learn, and I have the Nomos Orion. I love it now. And that's just kind of part of, being a lover of watches. You make these mistakes, you learn from them. All right, so now I have a watch that I regret buying and I regret selling. So that's kind of an interesting story. So this one is the Seiko Alpinist. So I bought this watch and I, of course, fell in love with the hype online. I thought it had some initial intrigue. The green dial I thought was cool. The cathedral hands was interesting. I got it in person. It looked great, just as great as it would in like any picture that you would see of it. It's just, it was not versatile for me. I did not find the versatility. Of course, the specs of it itself are very versatile. The 200 meters water resistance, the sizing, it has a really interesting mix of elegance and its ability to be dressed down. That said, I was really having trouble with the green dial. The green dial was so polarizing in how it would mix with outfits and things of that nature. Even in a climate where it's cold a lot of time of the year and that greenish tweed kind of like aesthetic, you could rock it a little bit more than usual. It wasn't as versatile as I wanted, and I think I put more weight on style than a lot of other people do when they're thinking about what watches to buy. So this watch wasn't for me, and I wasn't a big fan of the internal compass bezel inside the watch. Wasn't something that I enjoyed, but these are just little nitpicking things. But on the other end, I did regret selling it because this watch is so popular that when I did sell it, I probably sold it too prematurely because this watch just continued to go up in value. It got discontinued after I purchased it, and I sold it just at a profit, but still I probably could have gotten it at more of a profit if I would have just waited a little bit longer. So you live and you learn. Now we have one more watch, and this is a watch that I just regret selling, and that is my Rolex Datejust 1601 with the gray dial. So I own a Rolex Datejust. Again, it's a 1601. It's a two-tone. It's got a black dial, which I love. It's two-tone. I enjoy it. That said, I really enjoyed this gray dial version. I kind of miss parting with it because as I've just become more and more of a watch lover, I have built a kind of a love-hate relationship with Rolex in the sense that it's such a status symbol that it's difficult for me sometimes to feel comfortable wearing one. I think so many people can see it. They know all the kind of baggage that's associated with it, and there's just a pretentious type mentality I think a lot of people have when wearing them that it's kind of troublesome. And the great thing about the gray dial version was it really wasn't very intrusive when it was on your wrist. A lot of people didn't, glance at it twice. And that's really what I liked about it, is the fact that as somebody that just enjoys the watchmaking behind the watch, I wasn't looking for something that would catch people's attention. And then here I go deciding for this two-tone. I just like the look of it, but I really wasn't thinking about the full picture. I don't buy watches for getting people's attention. It's a kind of, if I wanted to do that, I would just get these big sports watches. But instead, I kind of go for dress watches. I kind of wish I owned it. Would love to find one in better condition one day, but there's just so many watches that I would love to own at this point, so I really don't know if that will ever happen in the near future. All things considered, though, just a watch that I do regret selling. So guys, those are my biggest watch regrets. So I'd love to hear your guys' down below, whether they're watches you bought, watches you've sold. I'd love to see them in the comments, engage with you guys down there. So guys, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Also hit that bell icon so you know when I release content for the future. Be sure to fill out the form down below to be entered to win the giveaway for a Timex Marlin Blackout Edition. really awesome watch. I'm gonna be doing a review on it very soon. And then in addition to that, be sure to check out my Instagram as well. I'm gonna be announcing the winner for that giveaway on my Instagram, so make sure you're following me there. And lastly, be sure to check out our Patreon. All of that was really just to support this new generation of watch lovers that we're trying to garner up here on this channel. That's really my main focus with creating my content. And any support there would be greatly appreciated. We also have some great perks on there as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.